The details are seared into my memory, every last one forever. I pushed his door open, unannounced, thinking he was asleep. Instead, I froze, captivated by the scene unfolding before me. My stepson Leo lay sprawled on the bed, legs splayed, his hand gripping the largest, most formidable thing I had ever encountered. It pulsed beneath his fingers, dense and impossibly weighty, easily measuring well over 16 inches. I should have turned away. I should have shut the door and walked away. Yet I remained rooted to the spot. A dark, unspoken hunger stirred deep within me, beginning to awaken. My heart hammered against my ribs. My breath hitched. I drifted closer, utterly entranced. He gazed up at me, a sly, knowing smile playing at the corners of his lips. Silently, he beckoned me inside, and the crushing weight of shame dissolved into an intoxicating warmth. My fingers quivered as I extended my hand toward him. He let out a low, guttural groan as I encircled him with my hand, grappling to hold all of him within my grasp. The sheer size, the burden, was overwhelming for his hands alone to bear. He needed help. In that dark, uncharted, electrifying instant, I offered my own. Before we delve further into this raw and revealing narrative, I want to take a moment to express my heartfelt gratitude to all of you who have chosen to subscribe to this channel. Your support is truly invaluable, and it means the world to me. Additionally, I encourage you to participate to share your insights and reactions in the comments section below. I'm always eager to know your thoughts as the story progresses. Now allow me to draw you deeper into the night that irrevocably, undeniably altered my existence. Let me introduce myself. I am Isabella. At 36, I found myself nestled in the deceptively serene suburbs of Connecticut, fully embracing the role of a dedicated housewife. On the surface, my life appeared flawless. A cozy, well-kept home, a diligent, successful partner, and a stepson, Leo, rapidly nearing the completion of his college journey. My husband, Marcus, frequently worked long hours as a corporate lawyer, leaving me to navigate the pervasive solitude of most nights entirely on my own. I meticulously occupied the encroaching stillness with tidying, creating art, nurturing my small garden, anything really, to combat the ever-present loneliness. When Marcus married me 3 years ago, I believed I had finally discovered a measure of stability of peace. Yet beneath that carefully constructed facade, our union was frigid, emotionally barren, and growing more rigid with each passing year. Then there was Leo, 19 years old, tall, with a shock of dark chestnut hair, and a physique sculpted by countless dedicated hours spent in the college gym. He embodied the youthful, audacious, almost rebellious essence that his father, Marcus, often sought to stifle or control. Our conversations until that fateful night were generally limited to mere pleasantries, polite but distant. The evening began like any other. The gentle, rhythmic tapping of rain against the window panes, the air inside infused with the warm, comforting scent of vanilla candles. I was nestled on the couch, a novel lying open but unread in my lap, as I endeavored to stave off the familiar, insidious ache of loneliness that always threatened to seep in once Marcus was gone. He had called earlier to inform me that a case review would run extremely late. He wouldn't be returning until the following day. I decided to go up to bed earlier than usual. As I walked by Leo's partially closed door, an unusual sound snagged my attention. A soft, almost anguished moan. A jolt of alarm surged through me, sending a prickling sensation up my spine. Was he hurt? I swung the door wide, my mind a sudden blank canvas. And there he was. Leo lay sprawled across his bed, his body relaxed yet undeniably taut, his fingers gliding expertly over a formidable length that seemed to challenge the very laws of nature. My breath caught in my throat. My mouth felt instantly parched. I longed to flee, to seek refuge from the shocking intimacy of the scene. Yet I remained rooted in place, utterly entranced, my eyes devouring the sight of him. He caught sight of me then. He didn't stop, didn't falter. His vivid green gaze, locked onto mine, challenging me playfully, knowingly provoking me. A wave of intense, almost painful warmth surged between my legs, a feeling so potent it left me laden, dizzy. "Come here," he murmured, his voice gravelly and low, a silken command. I should have run. My bare feet glided toward him as though drawn by some unseen, irresistible force. With each hesitant step, my heart raced with increasing, wild intensity. I perched on the very brink of his bed, my fingers quivering as they hovered just inches above him. "Let me help you with that," I heard myself murmur, my voice scarcely above a whisper, a stranger's voice. I encircled my hand around his incredible thickness. The sheer intensity of his presence, his heat, burned against my flesh. He let out a sharp hiss through clenched teeth as my thumb deliberately, experimentally grazed the sensitive underside. His soft sighs soon demanded the use of both my hands as I gradually, rhythmically glided up and down, savoring the sensation of every prominent vein, every powerful pulse. The room seemed to swirl with the exhilarating, forbidden allure of the taboo. His breaths became increasingly labored, ragged. He bit his lip, his hips rising instinctively to meet my touch. Before I fully grasped the enormity of my actions, I found myself leaning down, placing a tentative, then bolder, kiss upon the swollen, glistening head. He let out a low, appreciative groan, his fingers tangling roughly in my hair, directing me with an unspoken, urgent hunger. Shame should have washed over me in that moment. I should have experienced a crushing wave of guilt. But what consumed me, what obliterated every other thought, was nothing but a searing, insatiable, previously unknown hunger. I delved into him, savored him, became utterly entwined within him. The very essence of him, the forbidden melody of his presence, his immense stature, his sheer power left me in undeniable awe. My body reacted shamelessly, unabashedly, yearning, pleading for more. As he finally let go with a deep, guttural, almost animalistic growl, I savored every last drop, eagerly, wantingly consuming what he offered. I withdrew gradually, brushing my lips, my heart pounding fiercely, erratically within my chest. Leo's gaze shimmered with an unsettling, almost predatory intensity, a shadowy, possessive heat lurking just beneath the surface. "That was merely the start, Isabella," he remarked, his tone deep, cool, and vaguely menacing. In that fleeting, terrifying moment, I realized with a chilling certainty there was no way to retreat. The threshold had been irrevocably breached, and everything, absolutely everything, would forever be altered. A point of no return. Wouldn't you agree? Isabella has stepped into a dangerous, uncharted territory. What do you think is truly driving her? Loneliness, a hunger for connection, or something darker? If this story is igniting your curiosity, make sure you're subscribed and have those notifications on because things are about to get even more complicated. Share your initial thoughts in the comments. I'm dying to know what you're thinking. The morning sun poured through the bedroom windows, casting a warm, almost mocking, radiant glow across the room. Yet an icy, pervasive dread enveloped me, seeping deep into my very bones. I reclined in bed, solitude, a heavy blanket, the sheets a tangled mess around my legs, my body still resonating with the unfamiliar aches and echoes of the previous night. I gazed up at the blank ceiling, desperately attempting to convince myself that it had all been nothing more than a fever dream, a dreadful, embarrassing illusion that could be conveniently left behind with the dawn of a new day. Yet it had been undeniably, terrifyingly genuine. Each caress, each whispered word, every fleeting shared breath between us had unfolded, and there was no turning back from it, no erasing what had been done. I drew the blankets tightly around my head, yearning for the elusive comfort of invisibility. How could I possibly face Leo again? More horrifyingly, how could I confront Marcus when he returned home this evening, burdened by this repugnant, indelible secret etched upon my very skin, my very soul? I lingered in bed much longer than I typically would, only mustering the will to rise when the profound silence of the house assured me Leo had finally left. Avoiding him for now had become an absolute necessity. I sought to erase the memories, the sensations. I stood beneath the scalding cascade of hot water in the shower, scrubbing my skin until it felt raw, almost abraded. Yet the memories, the feelings adhered tenaciously to my being, branded onto my consciousness. The intimate, almost reverent manner in which Leo had breathed my name was utterly, dangerously captivating. The insistent grip of his hands and my hair had been both commanding and tinged with a raw, desperate need, and the most damning realization of all. I had desired it just as intensely, perhaps even more so. Tears pricked at my eyes, hot and shameful. Yet I stood resolute, unwilling to let them cascade down my cheeks. I hurriedly slipped into a comfortable, shapeless sweater and jeans, gathering my hair into a haphazard, unthinking bun. I would prepare breakfast, occupy my time with mundane tasks, and by the moment Marcus came back, all would somehow revert to its usual unremarkable rhythm. At least, that's what I desperately tried to convince myself of. I entered the kitchen and froze, caught in a sudden, heart-stopping moment of stillness. Leo, perched casually at the counter, bare-chested, a bowl of cereal awaiting him. His sun-kissed skin seemed to radiate in the morning light, muscles undulating with each effortless motion. His hair, still damp from a recent shower, fell in a messy boyish fashion across his forehead. Yet there was absolutely nothing youthful or innocent in the direct, assessing gaze he directed towards me. His eyes ensnared mine, measured and unervingly intentional, tracing the contours of my form with a languid predatory confidence that made my skin crawl. My face felt instantly aflame. I averted my eyes and busied myself with the refrigerator, feigning a desperate quest for something elusive, anything to avoid his knowing stare. "Morning, Isabella," he said, his voice rich with an almost palpable amusement. I offered a quiet, mumbled greeting, my back still turned to him, my hands quivering uncontrollably as I retrieved a carton of eggs. "You look different today," he remarked, a playful, teasing lilt in his voice, yet calm, radiating an unnerving warmth. I shut the refrigerator door with a force that felt excessive, startling even myself. "Eat your breakfast," I snapped, my voice cutting through the charged air with a sharp edge. He let out a soft, low chuckle, a sound that sent shivers of a wholly different kind racing down my spine. Feisty, he murmured a touch of what sounded like genuine sensitivity or perhaps mockery in his voice. I clumsily handled the eggs, breaking two of them messily into the sizzling pan. I focused intently on the stove, silently, desperately, urging him to depart, to grant me even a moment of solitude to inhale deeply, to regain some semblance of composure. Yet in that precise moment, I sensed him draw nearer. His formidable presence hovered just behind me, charged, electric, and undeniably perilous. "You don't need to put on a facade with me, Isabella," he said, his voice now gentler, almost disconcertingly personal. "I know you enjoyed it." Every second, I let the spatula fall with a clatter, my hands tightening into white-knuckled fists at my sides. "Stop," I urged, my voice quivering with a volatile mix of emotions. "Just refrain from discussing it. It was a mistake, a terrible mistake." I pivoted to confront him, determined to establish my authority, to somehow reaffirm the sacred limits we had so catastrophically broken. Yet, as our gazes locked, my carefully hoarded determination shattered into a million pieces. His eyes held no trace of regret, no hint of shame, only an intense, unquenchable, almost terrifying desire. "You want it again," he murmured, advancing with a subtle, predatory grace, his fingers brazenly grazing my hip. I inhaled sharply, the light touch igniting a furious blaze within my senses. I loathe myself for the way my body so effortlessly, so completely turned against me, inclining toward him, yearning for him, craving his touch. "No!" I whispered, though the sound felt feeble, unconvincing even to my own ears. He smiled then, a slow, confident smile, fully aware that victory was already his. He pressed me back against the unyielding counter, his hands gliding stealthily beneath my sweater, his fingers playfully, expertly exploring the delicate, sensitive skin of my waist. I let out a soft, involuntary whimper, my body instinctively arching against his, a silent, shameful surrender. "You belong to me now," he declared, his voice gravelly, raw with an urgent, possessive desire. "Last night you crossed a boundary, Isabella. There is no turning back from this." I shook my head, tears of frustration and self-disgust welling up in my eyes. Yet in the moment when his lips met mine, every objection, every carefully constructed defense faded away, silenced by the sheer, overwhelming intensity of his kiss. His mouth was insistent, consuming, robbing each precious breath from my lungs. His hands explored with a wild, almost desperate abandon, rediscovering my body with an unsettling, electrifying closeness. I surrendered to him completely, my fingers weaving through his still damp hair, drawing him nearer, embracing him with a desperate, reciprocal fervor I had never known I possessed. He hoisted me effortlessly onto the counter, his movements fluid and assured as he parted my legs, positioning himself firmly between them. I gasped against his lips, my fingers gripping his exposed, muscular shoulders. The kitchen resonated with the raw, urgent echoes of our fervent kisses, our uneven, ragged breaths, the gentle rhythmic collision of flesh meeting yielding flesh. I had never experienced such vitality, such unbridled desire, such a complete and utter surrender to chaos. As he entered me, it was a deliberate, almost shockingly profound movement, pushing the very boundaries of sensation to the thrilling edge of discomfort. I cried out, my head tilting back in abject surrender. He fulfilled me in ways Marcus never could have, never even dreamed of, touching hidden depths within me I had never realized were there. Leo surged forward, embodying the wild, untamed, almost savage spirit of his youth. Every powerful thrust reverberated through my entire body, sending relentless shock waves of pure, unadulterated sensation coursing within me. I held on to him tightly, desperately, surrendering completely to the surging, intoxicating tides of ecstasy, becoming utterly, blissfully lost in the moment in him. The counter trembled precariously beneath us. Dishes, dislodged by our frenzied movements, crashed to the ground, the sound echoing like distant thunder in the far recesses of my thoughts. I understood on some detached level the utter madness of it, all the imminent peril that loomed, yet a profound, almost liberating apathy had taken firm hold of me. Nothing else held any significance, any reality, except for the way he made me feel, the way he consumed me as we finally, explosively surrendered to one another. Our bodies, slick with sweat and trembling uncontrollably, the mounting chaos of the kitchen somehow enveloping us in its destructive embrace. And then a chilling realization, one that somehow eclipsed even the immediate horror of our recent actions. I felt no regret, not even the slightest, most fleeting hint of it, and that I knew with a certainty that chilled me to the core, frightened me more than anything else. The house lay in an unnatural, heavy stillness. As Marcus made his way back that evening, I observed him from the shadowy threshold of the kitchen, my heart pounding a frantic, guilty rhythm fiercely within my chest. He smiled upon seeing me, weary from his long hours, yet genuinely joyful, as he sat down his briefcase and opened his arms wide for an embrace. I lingered for a fleeting, agonizing moment, caught in the delicate, razor-thin balance of profound uncertainty before reluctantly crossing into his realm of unsuspecting elegance. He embraced me with a familiar, now almost alien, fervor, planting a gentle, possessive kiss on the side of my head, whispering sweetly about how deeply he had longed for my presence, for the comfort of home. I compelled myself to smile, to nod, to engage in the charade. Yet within, I sensed I was sinking, drowning in deceit. The essence of him, the familiar feel of his skin against mine. All aspects of him now seemed utterly foreign, marred, tainted by the hidden swords of truth I bore deep within me. Leo observed us from the dim landing of the staircase, his gaze deep, inscrutable, unreadable. In that brief, charged moment, our gazes intertwined, and a violent whirlwind of conflicting emotions churned within me, knotting my stomach in a tumultuous, nauseating dance. I swiftly, almost too quickly, distanced myself from Marcus, feigning a sudden, urgent preoccupation with the dinner preparations. Space. I desperately needed space. I found myself in dire need of contemplation, of a moment to breathe. The evening meal felt like an excruciating ordeal, a drawn-out torture. Marcus spoke cheerfully, animatedly about a case he had won, completely blissfully unaware of the heavy, stifling, almost tangible tension that enveloped the room like a shroud. I nodded and chuckled at what I hoped were the appropriate intervals, yet the flavors of the carefully prepared food eluded my senses entirely. It all tasted like ash in my mouth. Leo occupied the seat directly opposite me, his foot at one point subtly, deliberately grazing mine beneath the table, a mischievous, almost taunting grin dancing on his lips. I recoiled as if stung, my sudden movement sending my glass of wine tumbling to the floor, shattering the fragile illusion of normalcy. Marcus sprang to his feet, a look of genuine concern etched on his face, while I mumbled my profuse apologies, feigning that it was merely an unfortunate lapse in coordination. Yet within me, stark panic gripped tightly, its icy tendrils constricting my chest. Another night like this, another moment under this unbearable strain, would be utterly unbearable. Once dinner had finally, mercifully concluded, Marcus politely excused himself to indulge in a refreshing shower. As soon as he vanished into the upper levels of the house, Leo trapped me in the narrow hallway, his larger form effectively pinning me against the wall. "I want you again," he whispered hotly against my ear, his hand brazenly sliding up my thigh beneath the hem of my skirt. I tried to push him aside, a maelstrom of fear and resurgent guilt coiling tightly within me. "Cease this at once," I whispered fiercely, my voice trembling. "He resides on the upper floor. This is incorrect. It feels so." It was inherently catastrophically flawed. Leo chuckled gently, a derisive, knowing chuckle that echoed chillingly in the confined space. "You adore it," he remarked, his voice a low purr. "The thrill of peril, of the forbidden, captivates you. Your heart races with the vibrancy, the danger, I bring to your otherwise dull world." Hot, angry tears stung my eyes. I despised him in that moment, and I loathed myself even more for the undeniable truth in his words. "You are but a young one." I expelled a sharp breath, a desperate gesture of disdain. "You are merely a foolish, reckless, and impulsive young man." His expression grew instantly somber, the whimsical, boyish bravado dissipating in a heartbeat. "You didn't believe I was merely a boy when you were screaming my name in the kitchen this morning," he remarked, his voice suddenly frigid, incisive, cruel. Before I could halt my own reckless impulse, my hand lashed out, striking him hard across the face. The sharp, stinging sound reverberated ominously through the silent corridor. He slowly brushed his fingers against his stinging cheek, then smiled, a slow, cold, and intensely perilous grin. "You will return to me, Isabella," he stated plainly, his voice devoid of all emotion, save a chilling certainty. "Resistance is, and always will be, utterly futile." He pivoted then and vanished into the shadowed recesses of the living room, leaving me quaking, sobbing against the unyielding wall. I ascended the stairs with a sense of frantic urgency, securing the lock firmly behind me as I entered the supposed sanctuary of the master bathroom. I collapsed onto the cold tile floor, hot tears streaming unabated as I buried my face in my trembling hands. What had I wrought? What sort of monstrous woman had I irrevocably transformed into? I gazed intently at my distorted reflection in the steam-clouded mirror. My visage was pale and haunted, my eyes swollen and red with bitter remorse. The woman gazing back at me was a stranger, a hollowed specter I no longer recognized. As days morphed into weeks, the atmosphere within the house thickened with an almost unbearable, suffocating tension. Leo persisted in his cruel, relentless teasing, his fingers accidentally brushing against me when Marcus's gaze was momentarily elsewhere. His sultry, insidious whispers filled my ear with sordid, explicit promises, always concealed from prying eyes. And with each forbidden encounter, each stolen touch, my treacherous body turned traitor yet again, responding with an eagerness that horrified and shamed me. I loved him for it, for his power over me, and I found myself consumed by an even deeper, more corrosive loathing for my own weakness, my own complicity. Marcus, though not entirely oblivious, observed the growing, inexplicable space I had deliberately created between us. He made tentative attempts to engage with me, to connect, to understand, yet I continually, cruelly, rebuffed him time and time again. I found myself slowly, inexorably disintegrating beneath the crushing burden of my hidden, shameful truth. Yet I lacked the courage, the moral fortitude to reveal it, until that fateful, inevitable night when everything finally catastrophically unraveled. The hour had grown late. Marcus had ventured out for a late-night meeting with a client. In the echoing solitude of the house, I found myself nestled on the couch, wrapped tightly in a blanket, attempting to immerse myself in a movie, desperately striving to reclaim some semblance of normalcy of my former self. Leo appeared silently in the doorway, bare-chested as he often was now, clad solely in a pair of loose, sagging sweatpants that did little to conceal his arousal. I froze, my heart pounding a frantic, terrified rhythm fiercely within my chest. He remained silent. He simply gazed at me, his eyes ablaze with a raw, almost brutal desire, and like a moth drawn irresistibly, fatally, to an open flame, I found myself utterly consumed by him once more. He traversed the room in 3 swift, predatory strides, yanked the blanket away from me with a single, decisive motion, and enveloped me in his powerful embrace. His lips collided with mine, fierce and demanding, and I surrendered completely, utterly, to the inevitable. We never even reached the bedroom. Right there on the living room couch, he took me once more with a raw, almost savage intensity and a desperate sense of urgency, as if he possessed me entirely, body and soul. The faint sound of the front door creaking open barely registered in my ears, lost in the haze of illicit passion. I scarcely caught the sound of Marcus's voice as it reached out to me from the hallway, calling my name, a sound of bewildered concern. Yet Leo, his senses sharper, more attuned to danger, listened. He withdrew from my presence from within me, just as Marcus, unsuspecting, entered the living room. In that fleeting, horrifying instant, time itself seemed to pause to stretch into an eternity of damning silence. Marcus gazed at us, his expression a gut-wrenching, chaotic blend of utter disbelief and stark, unadulterated terror. He regarded my untidy, disheveled attire, the undeniable remorse etched deeply across my features, and the unrefined, almost triumphant pleasure still apparent in Leo's challenging, unrepentant grin. Comprehending the devastating break of day, the shattering of his world, gradually with great agonizing difficulty, Marcus recoiled as though he had been hit by an unseen physical force. "Isabella!" he whispered, his voice trembling, cracking as hot tears of shame and despair finally cascaded down my cheeks. I attempted to articulate my thoughts, to somehow offer an explanation, any explanation. Yet the words eluded me, caught in my throat like shards of glass. And in truth, no justification, no excuse could possibly undo the profound, irrevocable weight of my actions. Marcus pivoted then, a broken sound escaping his lips, and dashed away from the house, from me, from the wreckage I had made of our lives. The front door crashed shut behind him, the sound of final, definitive punctuation mark on our shattered marriage. I fell to the floor, tears streaming uncontrollably down my face, my entire being trembling with a sorrow so profound it felt as if my very soul were fracturing. Leo loomed above me, his expression an unreadable, enigmatic mystery. This was always destined to occur. Isabella, he murmured softly, his voice devoid of any discernible emotion. You simply never wished to acknowledge it. I screamed at him then, a raw, primal sound of pure anguish, telling him to leave, to get out of my sight. He departed without another word, leaving me alone on the cold living room floor, waiting for the dawn to break, accompanied only by my crushing guilt, my consuming shame, and the fragmented, irretrievable remnants of my utterly ruined existence. Marcus never returned. He is gone from my life forever. All that I once held dear, all that once defined me, has slipped away, lost in the inferno of my own making. It was entirely and devastatingly my doing, a story of boundaries crossed and lives irrevocably shattered. Isabella's choices led to an outcome that feels both inevitable and tragic. What are your thoughts on this ending? Could there have been a different path for her, or was this descent always her destiny once she took that first step? Share your reflections in the comments below. If this intense narrative resonated with you, please consider liking the video and subscribing for more stories that explore the darker, more complex facets of human desire and consequence.